Yeah, I think we are live now. I think we are live. Yeah, we are live both on our Facebook and on our YouTube and our LinkedIn platform. Therefore, Dr. Ogusui, you are welcome.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. It's good to be here. So I guess I can share and start. Can I go ahead and start?
Of course.
Okay, just want to be sure. Just a minute. All right, good afternoon, good evening, good day, everybody. Nice to be on this platform to make this quick discussion. I'm Ogushope by name, and today we will be discussing on one of the series that we've been considering in this class. Today we are looking at GA Rising Essentials, Aims, Innovations, and Impact. So, quick one, let me just introduce myself quickly. Like I said, I'm Ogushope Babatunde. I have a PhD in biochemistry. I lecture in Federal University of Technology, Akure, Nigeria. Currently, I'm a visiting research fellow in the School of Biosciences, University of Birmingham in the UK. And if you wish to know more about what I do, you can check this link and then gives you more information. So let's dig right into today's presentation. I will start by saying I'm probably going to share this slide with class. So I would advise you to do a lot to listen to me. And because I'm going to be saying many things, sharing many personal experiences that are probably not on these slides. So don't worry about these slides. I will make them right available. So grant writing, before we go into the essentials, let's even start from why do we need grants? Of course, if you are going to be in research, grants are essentials. Grants are important for your development, for to do your research, to study your work, to have quality impact. Now, whenever we talk about grants in research, many people think it's only about money to carry out a research one way or the other. Yeah, that's quite true. However, there are many types of grants, and I've listed many here. Now, why have I listed some of these grants is because it is important for you to know these different types of grants because your ability to know them will help you to know how to approach issue. So we have research grants, which is perhaps the most common one, where a particular funder gives you a particular source of fund or resources to carry out a specific research objective. It could be only you, whereby you are the independent researcher, or it could be a group of you, and it is a collaborative research. That's one type. Then we have other types of grants like training grants. Training grants comes in form of scholarship, master scholarship, PhD scholarship, postdoctoral scholarships, etc. and etc. Then we have travel grants, whereby maybe one or two bodies give you particular amount of money to attend conferences or to attend a short training, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month training in other labs. Then we have career development grants, whereby these are specialized type of grants, especially most of the time targeting people who are transiting maybe from postdocs to independent researcher to help them establish. And then we have other types of, we have educational advancement grants. These are grants that some people give to train. It is not to carry out research, but it is to train in a particular area. Maybe bring out people together and then train them in a particular skills. We have a number of bodies that do that. It is just to carry out trainings of people. And then we have other types of grants, different body. Some people support maybe mothers or fathers when they are doing their research. Some are diversity. Some support career interruptions or disruptions, maybe because of war or because of one issue or the other, and the particular scientists have to relocate from one region or of the world to the other. They support it. Now, this is very important for you to know because each type of these grants are approached differently. And if you approach them the same way, you are not likely going to get a good result. So you must first of all know what type of grant am I going for. That will help to know how to approach them because each one has its own objectives. For example, an educational advancement grant is to train. You don't use that research, grant to carry out research. The objectives are different. So when you are a training grant, maybe for your postdoc or for your PhD or masters, is to train you. It is not a collaborative grant. This is a time for training, not a time you are not expected to be independent at that stage. You're expected to get trainings. So these are the different types of grants. So why now? Let's go. Having established that and the importance of why we need grants. And now we're talking about aims and impacts. Now, why do we need to talk about these things? Because when we apply for grants, we are submitting your grant application maybe for travel, for scholarship, for research. Most of always, the funders or the funding agency will review them. And when they review them, just like you review manuscripts, they are sent to independent scientists who will read your work and then give the funders back their feedbacks. Before the end of this talk, I will probably share some of, maybe because of time, maybe at least a comment I've gotten. So when you are writing, you want to write with the aim that you are writing for someone who will not be there or will not come back and ask you questions. They are going to be reading what you have saying and they're going to make their mind up. And another thing you must know is that these reviewers are as busy as you are, if not more busy than you are. So most of the time you want to catch their attention quickly and you don't want to be too ambiguous. And that is why it is important for us to focus on your aim, your objectives, and then so that you can have a meaningful impact. So that is the essence of this particular talk. So it is very, very important. Okay, so let's move forward. So when we talk about our aims, when you want to design your research, let's say for you want to package your grants proposals, you want to write it. Let's say a research grant or a training grant, for example, a master's or a PhD grant. I will focus more on these because I believe a lot of people may be in this category in this class, but I will also still dive into research grants because I also know a good number of us will be interested in research grants. But the two will have an aim. The reviewer, the funding agency want to know, why do you want to do this? What is the aim of your research? And now the aim of your research will, first of all, comes from what you want to achieve. And this brings me quickly to the two types of research we generally have. Your research will either be basic or applied. Now, in basic research, you are trying to know what. And in applied research, you are trying to translate into the immediate environment. I will So that is the two types. Both have their roles. In basic research, you are trying to understand mechanisms. Why is this like this? Why is it not like this? Why does the brain of this organism differ from this? What makes this organism to be smarter than this? No, I'm just using that to explain. Now, these are basic research, but in applied research, you are translating, you are applying them to your environment. So again, for you to be able to have, your aim must be clear. From the beginning, you must let it be clear, what are you aiming for? Are you tailoring towards a basic research, or are you tailoring towards a applied research? You must quickly be clear and be direct in your aim. You must have a specific aim of what you want to achieve. Now, aim is very important. And let me quickly say that your aim must align with the objectives of the funding organizations. What do I say? If you want to write a proposal, a research grant proposal, you need to first of all understand what is the interest of the funding agency. If they are not interested in basic research, there's no point in you giving them a proposal on basic research. That's a waste of time. But if they are interested in basic research and they are not interested in applied research, then there's no point in wasting your time in applied research. So your aim must align well with the core objectives of the funding organization, of the funding agency where you are applying to. This is very, very important. So I say here that you must have a problem you are focusing and you must target it. You must be specific. Now, this is AYS and this is Africa Young Academy. So I will be trying to talk a little about our continent. You must have a specific research question in your mind that you want to answer pertaining to your environment, and it must be direct. For example, if you are doing your research in in an African institution and African environment, you must quickly want to tell us what do you want? Is it a proposal for you to solve a particular problem? What is the problem you want to solve? What is the gap and what is missing? And then you go straight to it and let us know what you want to achieve. So the aim must be clear. I get it. And in addition, after your aim, you have an hypothesis. This is what you want to test. And then you have your specific objectives. Depending on it, by my own rule, depending on your proposal, your objective should not be too much. And because if it is too much, you will be told you are over ambitious. Now, this is a very interesting comment from grant writing feedbacks. Now, most of the proposals you'll be writing, most of the grant applications you will be targeting will have a duration. May it be PhD, may it be master's, may it be research grants. You will have a duration. Now, you don't want to have an objective that will not be achievable within that time. You must be realistic. And let me quickly say this in this area of aim, that the first thing that I used to, in the early days, when I started writing grants, I used to believe that, oh, I will impress the reviewers or the grant funders by trying to solve a lot of problems, make it look, robust. But as year goes by, when I start getting feedbacks after initial failures, I start learning that nobody expects you to solve the whole world problem in your one research proposal. Rather, they want you to focus on specific problem and tell how you want to solve it. So it is never about the volume. So it is never about you having 10 objectives. No, it is about you having a specific problem. The objectives may not be more than 3 or 4, but they are concise and they will directly tackle the aim or help you to achieve the aim. So I quickly want to let you know about this, that it is not about the number of objectives. It is not about I want to achieve 10 objectives and this will make me stand a good chance. No, but rather it is you having handful enough objectives that can be achievable within that time. I remember a feedback I got, I said I'll be sharing personal experience about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And the comment says my proposal was over ambitious. Now I asked my PhD supervisor and my mentor, Professor Ganiyo, about that. Oh, what does it mean? And he told me the meaning of over ambitious means that you want to do what is not achievable within that time. But I said, oh, it's not that much. No, they said the focus is that your proposal is good. The problem you want to achieve is clear, but you have been the organization or the funder said, do this within a year or do it within 24 months. Your objectives is not feasibly achievable in 24 months. So no matter how robust, no matter how good it cannot be achieved. So it's already is a shortcoming. So the objectives must be direct, must be concise enough, and must be within your means. Now, quickly, let me still talk about these objectives. Select objectives. Objectives mean how you want to carry out your aim. What are the ways you do it? Are you getting it? For example, you want to study how a particular plant can be used to cure diabetes. So the objectives will be what are the various methods, what are the various ways you will use to confirm that this plant can cure diabetes? So are you going to first start in the in vitro? Are you going to now go to animal model? Are you going to now go to clinical trials? Those are what I mean by your objectives to achieve. And it is very important for you to be able to make them concise and direct. Okay, and then still on the aim, you should have expected outcomes. So now, expected outcomes are just a way of saying, oh, okay, if everything goes well from my objectives, this is what I aim to see. And this is what I expect to get from them. So these critical components flow all the way or embodies you to know about the aims and objectives of your grant proposal. Very, very, very important. And because most of the time, the sincere truth, both as a grant applicant and as a grant reviewer, the honest truth is that reviewers may not sometimes, they may focus on this aspect, and that's why I'm taking time on it. They focus on your aim and objectives, and they form their opinions. Of course, they can go through the remaining part of the proposals, but by the time they've read the aims and objectives, they've already formed their opinions on what they would score about your proposal. So whatever they are reading later, they already formed their opinion. So that is why it is important to make this place very solid, very concise, and very apt. So like I think I've said this over and again, 2 to 3 specific aims and objectives and the expected outcome. Clarity is better than complexity. Like I said, make it simple. Now, again, about clarity. Let me quickly say here that most of the time, by my own experience, there is no rule that says the person that is going to review your proposal, your grant proposal, is going to be in your core field. Now, get this, is very important. For example, the person will be a scientist, but may not be in your core field. What do I mean by core field? For example, I'm a biochemist, and I'm a neurochemist to be precise. Now, I can write a proposal on neurochemistry, but the proposal may not be reviewed by a neurochemist. In fact, it may not be reviewed by a biochemist. It may be reviewed by a physiologist. It may be reviewed by an anatomist, where everybody is still in basic medical sciences. It may be, in fact, when it's going to be reviewed by a physiologist, it may be reviewed by a reproductive physiologist. You may want to say, oh, are they making a mistake? No, they are not making a mistake, because the essence is you must be able to communicate your science clearly. It is not only for the people in your core area. Everybody in the science community must understand what you're saying in a clear way. So when you are writing, that is the essence of clarity. Not too ambiguous, not too technical words, but in a simple language, bearing in mind that your reviewer may not be in your core field. It may be in a similar field, but not in your core field. Nevertheless, he should be able to follow you. That's why some of these proposals, some of these grant proposals, we ask you to write executive summary. And some of them will say, write this executive summary in a late term if they want to be very clear. In other words, write it in a way that anybody will follow, because reviewers can come from related fields. So clarity is very important. You don't want to piss off the reviewer at this early stage. Don't forget, you are not going to be there to explain yourself to the person. So again, we've talked a lot about this, so I'm going to be, like I said, I'm going to be speaking more. So let's again look at this again. So examples, I've also said a lot about this, and let me just quickly reiterate it again. So in constructing your aim, the aim of your proposal, you must be very direct. Let's look at this example. It said, determine whether X regulates Y under said condition. Clear, very direct. Elucidate the molecular mechanism linking X to Y. Evaluate therapeutic modulations of X in a disease model. So let's synthesize this. Each aim, this is like 3 examples of your aims, 3 examples, just trying to let you know how you can present, because your aim is only going to be a single sentence. It is the objectives that will be broken down into different categories. Each of these aims tests a prediction, produces interpretable data, advances the central hypothesis. So you are not ambiguous. It is not too long. It is not too wordy. It is straight. Determine whether X regulates Y under said condition. Very direct, just like I was trying to say earlier. Okay, please, if I'm too fast, you can let me know, but I'm trying to take it up so that we can have enough time for questions and answers. Okay, so again, what do reviewers look at? Innovation in your research. Innovation is very important when you are presenting a grant. Now, the first thing is that like they say, there's no free lunch anywhere, even in Freetown. So nobody wants to throw their money around. Nobody wants to give you money to go and do what would not make sense. And let me quickly say, don't ever get into the illusion to think, oh, these people just like giving us money in Africa. No. That would be a wrong impression. The fact is, every kobo spent in science is aimed to advance science one way or the other. It's either to train you to build your capacity, or to solve a problem, or to answer a question. So there's no waste. And that is why innovation is key. Reviewers want to look at what is innovative. What are you bringing to the table? What are you changing? Now, when we talk of innovation, I know the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, am I expected to design a proposal that's going to be groundbreaking, a Nobel laureate winning type of proposal? Well, don't let us get it that complex. Having that impression is scary and can be discouraging. But innovation does not necessarily mean complexity. It simply means solving an idea. It simply means thinking another way. Most of it, I've taken a course many times back in my school. The title is Innovation in Healthcare Service Delivery. And what I used to tell the students is that innovation most of the time is just thinking in another way. It's still going to be, it may be the same problem that has been tried over and over again, but you just say, oh, why can't we do it this way? And these are interesting things that have been discovered in science. So when innovation comes most of the time, it is not always like a totally new idea. It could be an improvement on an existing idea, or you just say, oh, why can't we do it this way? Now, let me give you some interesting examples. Some of the drugs today being used to treat some diseases were initially planned or designed for some other diseases. I will give you an example. sildenafil. Sildenafil was initially designed to treat hypertension, but in the line of the use, it was discovered that it was also effective for erectile dysfunction, and that's why it became a drug today is more popular for erectile dysfunction than hypertension. That is, what innovation comes in. The same drug, two purposes. So what am I trying to say is that sometimes don't overthink that you have to do something complex, big, you just have to look at your environment and look at what aligns with the funding agency's interest and see how you can solve that particular problem in a unique way. And to be innovative, don't look too far. Look at your environment. Look at where you are. Look at what pertains to you. Wherever country you are, wherever your local environment is, look around you first. Now, let me quickly tell you, if you are applying for a grant, except the grant is going to be used in another country, let's say, for example, if you are, say you are applying to go and do a PhD, maybe in the United States of America, for example, of course, you can design a proposal relevant to the United States of America, except if the grant funding says design it to be in line with your home country. But if you are back home, let's say, for example, you are in Nigeria and you want to apply for a grant, and because the grant funders are based in the United States of America, you now write the proposal to solve a problem in the US when you are in Nigeria. And the grant does not say you are coming to the US. And you do this because you say, I want to be innovative. Your idea may be brilliant, your idea may be sound, and that may be technical, but the innovation there does not apply to your environment. And the grant funder will say, oh, what is the relevance of this to your environment? And that's why I say innovation is relative. It's relative to your environment. So you don't need to look too far. Look at your immediate environment, see what you can do, see how you can find a lot of interesting things. I've been to some conferences, I think last year I was in a conference in Germany and I saw a lot of posters of research coming from Africa, and I could see a brilliant way of people doing a number of research. Very, very fantastic ideas to solve their immediate problem. One that caught my attention was, one of the model organisms I use is Drosophila melanogaster. I believe some of you will know about it. Now, all I've always been using Drosophila melanogaster for is for biomedical research, model it for diseases and use it to see how we can look for therapeutic interventions for these diseases because of the closeness of the disease-causing genes to humans. But when I was in this conference, there's this man, I think from Kenya, that came to present a paper of how they use Drosophila melanogaster to tackle the issue of pests attacking crops in Kenya. And because of this research of Drosophila melanogaster, they were able to completely deal with pests in farms, I think in orchards in Kenya, and it was able to eradicate a lot of pests in this way without going to use all these chemicals that may be, uh, that may contaminate the soil thereabout. And it was so ingenious, and I was like, wow, the same Drosophila melanogaster that we all just thought is only for biomedical research. These people have thought outside the box and they use it to, to solve a major problem in a country. And I think for that particular research, it was awarded an international prize in food science and nutrition. Very prestigious, with a cash prize of about 25,000 euro, if I can remember very well. So what am I trying to say is that innovation is not complexity. It's just looking at the environment and looking at what you can fix. And that little idea you think it doesn't make any sense, or will anybody buy it, may just be what will, pique the interest of the outside world. And this is very important. So we must know that solving our immediate environment, innovation can come from them. Are we getting? Yeah, about 2 years ago, I started a research by studying how does food interact with some drugs. Now, many people have studied how foods can be used to manage some diseases, and then the drugs also treat the diseases. But I come to think about it that many of the time, when people have, let's say they have hypertension, diabetes, or any of all these other diseases, or Alzheimer's disease, they go to the hospital, they give them drugs, and they take the drugs. Now they come back home and they eat their foods. Most of these foods have their own, functional properties. They have their own way they modulate the body physiology. They are taking the drugs, they are eating the foods. How does these two interact and relate? And I was like, this is a good way for us to say, because this is an open-ended question, quite innovative. Will these drugs enhance this, and will these foods enhance the drugs? Will these foods, antagonize the drugs, or will there not be any effect? And I think I put down a proposal together, and I sent it to one of the grant agencies, and it was well funded, just to see how these two interact. So this is the essence of innovation. It is looking at your environment and putting it together. I think I've spent a lot of time on it. Let's move quickly. Okay, so we've said a lot of things here. I've spoken about this, writing the innovation section, because in your proposal, you must always, the reviewer wants to see what is innovative, what is new. I've gotten a lot of rejections because my proposals were not innovative. So you must quickly again catch their attention and let them know, even right from the introductory statement, particularly towards the end of the introductory statement, when you are trying to summarize your introductory statement, your proposal, your grant, you must quickly let them, this is the gap in knowledge, and this is what I'm bringing in. Let it be quickly clear. Again, don't forget I say from your executive summary introduction to your aim and objective, these 4 sections, you should have won the heart of the reviewer. If you are not able to convince the reviewer by the end of the objective, it may not be very difficult to win such a reviewer again. And so it is very important to focus on this. Okay, so impact. Now, we've talked about the aim. When you do research, it should have impact. And when I mean that impact is, again, I talk of carrying out research the reviewer of your proposals of your grant want to see what are the impacts that your proposal, or if you are giving this scholarship, if you are giving this grant, if you are giving this opportunity, what impact is it going to make? What are you going to do? And that is why some grants, some funding agency will ask you to write expected outcomes. When they are asking for expected outcomes, they're asking you for impact. Some may ask you to write your projected plan. They're asking for impact. So your research must be impactful. And for your research to be impactful means that you are not supposed to be reinventing the wheel. You are not supposed to be doing what has been done, or an area that has been overflowed, without you bringing any innovations to it. And that is where impact comes from, because the impact must come clearly and succinctly. So to have an impact, your proposal must be clear, the objectives must be clear, and the problem or the challenge you are trying to, may be basic, may be applied. You should be clear and direct. What you want to establish and what you want to get across. The impact must be clear. In the expected outcome, you must be able to say, oh, by the end of this by the end of this research, I would have been able to get studies that will be able to answer these questions and answer these questions and answer these questions. It must be very clear. And it must, for example, the other time I was saying the proposal I wrote about interactions of foods with drugs, the impact of that is for the community to know, maybe the medical community, the food industry to, and even the patient themselves to know that in time past, some of these foods have their own therapeutic properties because of the bioactive compounds in them, and they may interact with these foods. So when you are taking this food and taking these drugs, doctors may want to caution and say, oh, these two may antagonize each other. These two may help each other. So you see that it's already impacting care delivery. And these are very, very, very interesting. And these are why your proposal must be impactful, and it must be, direct and straight. So the impact of your research must be very loud and clear. So you must be able to show impact directly. Let's say, for example, you are packaging an applied research to your environment. What is the impact on the environment? If it's an applied research and you are using animal model, for example, you are using rats to study, you are using fly model, you must be able to show how translatable such study is to humans, because it's not supposed to just stop at rats or any of these models. These models are just means to an end. So what impact will it be for humans? Are you getting? And if it is basic research, you should also be able to say, what is the missing gap in knowledge you want to fill? Are we getting it? If it is basic research, what information do you want to pass across? What is the gap in this that you want? For example, one of the current work I'm doing now is I'm trying to see what is the difference in male and females when they, in terms of some neurodegenerative diseases. Some are known, some are not known. For example, Parkinson's disease is quite known to, affect males more than females. But some other neurodegenerative diseases where it's not clear which males or which gender is more affected. Now, this sounds like a basic research because I'm trying to fill a gap in knowledge of which gender is more severely attacked by some of these neurodegenerative diseases. Now, but the impact is clear. By the end of this, I expect to, for this particular neurodegenerative disease, this gender may be more severely impacted than the other gender. And if further studies can be taken, maybe clinical trials, we may be able to find a translatable information, and these will help to inform maybe clinicians, drug developers on how to, use this information in diagnosis, in caregiving, and in therapeutic interventions. These are direct impact, not I've done this and then there is not going to be any impact on the society or on your immediate environment or the world at large. Okay, so like I said, successful grants show alignment. There must be problem. You must have a clear problem you want to solve. There must be a gap. There must be an hypothesis. There must be aims. The aims must be innovative, and the objectives to achieve these aims must be clear enough. At the end of the day, there must be impact. We must take home these various steps. Problem: what are you solving? The gap that you want to fill. How do you want to solve it? Your hypothesis. What way are you going to solve it? Aims. What are the things you want to use to solve it? Are your objectives? What is the difference between what you are doing and what others are doing? Are your innovations? And finally, what is the equal to, like one of my professors we used to say, pardon me for using that time, you always say, what is the equal to of what you are doing? So what is going to be the outcome of this particular study? And that is your impact. So let's quickly look at some of the common errors where grant fails. I believe you will have picked one or two things from what I've been saying. Some of them is that the aim if the aim is too broad or focused, it may be rejected. If you are saying you want to carry out a study on a whole, for example, you want to carry out a study on a whole country, and the aim cannot be well gotten. Let me give you an example. In the beginning, I say we want to use this plant to treat diabetes. I remember that was what I said. Now, if I now said I want to use this plant to treat diabetes, to treat hypertension, to treat headache, to treat Alzheimer's disease, oh, come on. That aim is too broad and nobody's going to take me serious. And I say, if the innovation is overstated or unclear, now, here, like I said, nobody expects you to solve the whole world problem in a go. No. Pick a little chunk that you want to deal with, and be specific on how you want to do it. It must not be overstated, it must not be too speculative, and it must not be ambiguous. When the impact is not convincingly articulated, when at the end of the whole study we look at it that there's no impact, all you are doing, I got a rejection on a grant I wrote, and the rejection was because they said, oh, a lot has been done on this particular area. Ironically, most of the work that has been done in that area also came from me anyway, because it was a plant I've worked with over and over again. And they say, oh, you've done a lot of things in this area, a lot of things have been done area. We don't feel there's any new thing that this information is going to give us. So impact, when the impact is not convincing, it will be rejected. So lack of logical flow. For example, if you want to use a plant to treat diabetes, we expect you to start from an in vitro study. Nobody expects you to jump suddenly and go and carry mice or rats, because you must have a logical flow of your program. You must first do a pilot study, an in vitro study, then you do a pilot study, you do a dose determinations, you determine your healthy 50, then you know the number of animals, you get your ethical approval, then you go to animal studies, you get your results, and then probably you may want to move to clinical trial. If this does not flow sequentially, then it can also get a proposal rejected. Now, no contingency plan. Now, this one, the issue of contingency plan here is when a proposal is centered around just one or two objectives, it means that when the one or two objectives fails, the whole thing pack up. It may also get the grant rejected. Okay, so like I said, this is an example of a comment I get. Now, before I dive into this, let me quickly tell you that when you start applying for grants, you must prepare your mind for two things. You must prepare for either a rejection or an acceptance. If you get an acceptance, congratulations, rejoice over it. But don't forget to do the work, because when you do the work, like I used to say, one grant will most likely give you another grant if you do the work, and then you have something to show for it, depending on the type of grant. For example, if it's a research grant, we expect you to, in addition to writing your report, now this is very important, especially for those of us in African environment. I've seen a lot of incidences whereby we African scientists, we get grants and we never write the reports, we never carry out the job, and you don't expect to get another one again. And I'm speaking especially in the AYS now for some of us that are young, upcoming scientists. You know, the money can be very enticing when you get these grants, but please be honest enough to do the job. Otherwise, like I said, you hit the fruit, you hit the seed. There's nothing to plant again. I have someone that, you know, use me as a referee, not just as a referee, I help the person to secure and host. Got a training grant in another country to do part of the PhD. The person did not go for that grant, got the money, did not go for it. Said all manner of stories, this person duped, somebody did this, the person that want to help they buy the ticket, you know, all manner of cock and bull story. The long and short is that he didn't go and do the fellowship, but he got the money, apparently. Apparently never returned the money to the funders. I said a lot of things, but what do I do? Eventually, I think about some months ago, the same person contacted me again that I want to apply to the same funders, and he said he wants to use me as a referee. I said, don't use me for any referee again. I said, just don't try it. Because you got one, you said all manner of things. Because let's even assume that the stories were true. Because it's a grant and because you don't want to block future chance, you are supposed to look for every means to execute that, even if it means using your personal money, execute that particular grant. And then so that you don't block your own chance and the chance of others in the future. So when the success comes, please don't be overwhelmed. Even if it is master's or PhD grant, even for that one, don't get carried away. We've also heard stories of students that they got grants for masters and PhD. They go to the host country, the host institutions. They use 1 or 2 months and they eloped. That also is not good. So it's not only about research grant, it's also about, even masters, PhD grant, even travel grants. All these grants should be well utilized because every wrong utilization you do, you are probably going to block the chance of others, maybe, and even yourself, you may be blacklisted. If it's a research grant in academics, we expect you to have the major way to show that you've done something often is for you to publish your findings. Now, sometimes you do a research and the results, may not work according to where you want it to be. So I'm saying this so that I want it to be balanced, so that you are not under pressure and say, I must publish. And then, this kind of pressure may push some people to falsify that. No, don't do anything that is not unethical in academics. But I'm just saying that it is an expectation that you should, because this is the only indices that can show that, from this grant, you were able to get this work done. In my own CV, I used to have a column where I say, this is the grant I got, this is the title of the grant, and these are the papers I published from it. Now, ask me, is it every grant that has been able to give you, substantial paper? No, because it's an hypothesis. Some of them, you test them, they don't work. But those that you do, just make sure you do the right thing, and those ones, do a good job and get yourself published, because the next grant you are going to apply for, they want to see a track record, which brings me to this report. You can see this was a report I got some years ago. It said you have a good track record and publications. Sometimes, depending on the type of grant, now this is not a PhD or a master's grant, it's a research, is a fellowship grant. Now, they may want to see, depending on the type, if you want to apply for a travel grant, they may not be interested in if you have won a grant before. If you're applying for, let's say, master's or PhD grant or fellowship, they may not ask you. But if you're applying for a research grant, depending on the capacity, if you're applying for a, let's say, $5,000 research grant, they may be interested, they may not be. But if you're applying for a $20,000 research grant, for example, the funder wants to see how you've managed 5,000, 3,000, 10,000. And this can only be seen from both your CV, your past winnings, and the publication. They are not just interested in if you got those grants. They also want to see how did you utilize them. what are the publications that came from there? Are the publications in a good place? Did you do a good job? There was a particular grant I won from IFS the first time was in 2019. I finished the job, and in 2022, after submitting the report, they contacted me. They said that we have been following you online. We have been seeing your progress, and we've seen the works you. In fact, I was so shocked. And they said, we've been following you online, and we've seen what you did with the first grant. Can you submit a renewal proposal? I was very shocked. I said, what am I doing? Free call. And the renewal proposal, I submitted it. It was not an open call. They didn't make a general call for that particular proposal. They just said, send it to this place. We are not making a general call. We are only making specific calls to some of our previous awardees. But the thing is, I never knew they were monitoring whatever I was doing online. So please manage the success so you can see you have good support from the host and all those ones. But of course, apart from the whole good stories up, then you can also see some of the comments down. It was not hypothesis driven enough. These are some, so you can see both the good and the bad, the plus and the minus. So again, if your proposal did not work, should be rounding up now. I want to encourage you that don't, yes, you can cry. I do cry. I've cried before, but by now, I think I no longer cry. It has become part of me. So, but I've cried with the fry. So, of course, you can cry because sometimes you have spent months on these things, and then it didn't come back well. So if it is cry, yeah, go ahead and do the cry. But after all the tears, don't say they didn't like me. Don't say it's because I'm an African. Don't say no. If it's a grant that they gave you a feedback, go and read the feedbacks again and use those feedbacks to repackage those proposals. Look at the loopholes, be objective. Don't say, it's racism. I'm not saying there's no racism, and neither am I confirming. I'm only saying, don't let us always conclude. Look at the comment. Even if they didn't send you comment, I've had to mail them. Oh, after I got the rejection emails, I will say thank you. Although it's an unexpected sad news, I didn't get the proposals, but can you kindly send me the comments why my proposal was rejected in order for me to be able to prepare for future applications? And gladly, they will send it to me. And then I will sit down and I will look. And most of the time, I will see that indeed there was a loophole in my proposal. I can tell you categorically that by the grace of God, I've won a number of grants, but I've been rejected more than accepted. So don't be afraid. Just know it is part of the game. Thank God for your successes, but also maximize those ones that didn't come through by repackaging it. And when you repackage it, you make it better, and the next time you are going to apply, you will just get it. So this is the reason why I put this comment there. So you can see the two contracts, and then eventually I got this grant anyway. But I'm just using it to let you know that feedbacks are very important. I've learned a lot from feedback, just like the way we learn from feedbacks, the reviewers' comment from journal publications. So my final take home, like I would say, is celebrate your wins, strengthen your rejections. Write for reviewers, not for yourself. Have them in mind. Who is going to read my reviewer? Have them in the back of your mind. Be mechanistic and hypothesis-driven. Be specific about determining the true novelty. Show why the work matters beyond your lab. I love this. Show why the work matters. Show why you need to be passionate even in your writing. Be passionate. And there's one way I used to do this is that in my opening statement, I will let them know this. I will drive home the point. If I'm tackling a disease, I will first say there that, oh, this is the burden. This is why you need to allow me to study this. This is the number of people this particular disease has been killing, and this is the challenge we have. Now, if I'm doing the study in Africa, I will not go and get the epidemiological data in my country and say, in my country, this is the problem I have. I will come from the world, I will come to Africa, I will come to Sub-Saharan Africa, I will come to Nigeria, and then I will let them see. By the time a reviewer will have read those first 2 or 3 lines, they will be, like, oh, this is really a problem. So you make them know that there's a problem. But if you are casual about it, they will say, oh, why should we give money to this? So this is also very important. So these are some of the funding bodies I've been privileged by the grace of God to get grants from. I have put them here just in case you may be interested. Some of them offer all these types of fellowships I've talked about, both research, some offers a PhD, masters, diversity grant, and all those types of grants I've listed above. So you can look at them, or they are good opportunities for you to. Some of them are discipline specifics anyway. Pardon me for that, but some are general, the likes of RF, CAPES, TWAT, TMPQ. Sorry, I put TED fund is only for Nigerians. ICGB, Unfortunately, IFS has stopped operation now. They stopped in 2024 or 2025 thereabout. But all others, I believe they are. And there are many more, many more. These are just very limited. But one thing I will say is that the world is waiting for your proposal. I can assure you that one. The funds are there, and they are just waiting for you to bring your ideas in the most simplest but scientifically sound way. Thank you very much, and I believe we can have questions and answers now. Thank you. So please, if there are any questions, I believe we may still have some time to take some questions. You can unmute yourself. Okay, I think I'm about to open the chat and read. Okay, I'm seeing the friend. What? Okay. Thank you very much. I see that comment. Please, if you have a question, you can unmute yourself to ask, and or you drop it as a chat quickly, and let me see as many questions that we can tackle here. Please go ahead. Does anybody have any? I'll just hold on for some time. Please feel free. Okay. Thank you very much. I see the comment. That's a very one. Thank you for the comment. Questions, please.
Okay. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Obusi. That's a wonderful talk. Yeah. It's good to hear. And I believe Dr. Assis also should be prepared to update us on the way moving forward. I think next week will be the last webinar for this training session, foundational training. Chukwuka, I think I can see your hand. Let me ask you to unmute yourself for questions. Do you have any?
Okay, while we wait for Chukwuka, someone drop a question in the chat. I think it's Isaac Oluwashola. So he said, I need more clarity on expected outcome because some people thought it shouldn't be too specific.
Okay, thank you. I think I can see that too. Yeah. Now, for things like this, my response is be conversant with what the funder is asking you. you must first of all, if you want to apply, and again, let me also use the opportunity to say this, give enough room to apply for any opportunity, because you should first use maybe the first 2-3 days to digest the core guideline, because there's no one size fit all. What each funder wants is different from the other, and again, it depends on the type of the grant you are looking for. So there is no one size fit all. Know what they are asking for. Some will ask you to elaborate. In fact, for expected outcomes, some go as far as saying where do you plan to even publish your expected findings. I've come across that one before. So they can be that elaborate, and some may not want you to be elaborate. So I can tell you categorically that there's no one size fits all. Just know what that call is anticipating, because they are the ones, they already have the marking scheme they are going to send to the reviewers. So that is what they are going to use to score. So it's not what anybody says, it's what the call says. And if there is no specified guideline to such thing, be as elaborate as you can. It's better to be elaborate when there is no rule saying you should not be, than to be less elaborate, and at the end of the day, you are scored low because you were not elaborate enough. I think that's the way I will answer that.
All right. Good evening. My name is Chuka Obunna, speaking from Ogun State, Nigeria. I appreciate our speaker for your presentation and your delivery, quite insightful. There is something that's usually said when talking about applying for grants, that a study where maybe nothing tangible must have been done over a certain number of years. You don't need to apply for grant for such to do anything in that area again, or your application will be rejected. But I remember the speaker said something about bringing something creative, novel. So what if your novelty or your creativity is bringing back something in such situation where not much must have been done over some period of time? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Like I said earlier, it is about what you want to do. Even in areas that has been overflogged, like there has been done over and over again, you can always find something new to do. Nobody punishes you from studying. In essence, in science, you will agree with me that at the end of the day, we are all trying to research, like they say, we are searching over and over again. So it is not really about if it is a new, or it is congested, or it has been left for a while. You can go into any area, but the caution is you must be sure that you are bringing something new compared to what is on ground. Like I said, the general norm is that don't go into areas that has been overflogged. But I can also tell you also that if you go into a new area, you may even get your proposals rejected. Yes, why I would say that is because sometimes if you are going to a totally new area, you don't even have experience, except if that grant is calling you. I've seen some grants like that they say, all we want you to do is go and do something new you've never done before. But others will say, oh, it doesn't have an experience in this field. And that is why you will not be given that area. So you see that it is neither here nor there. But the most important thing is what you want to do. Even if it is congested, if there's a lot has been done in it, be sure that what you are bringing in is novel to your environment. Like I said, innovation is relative. What is innovative in Nigeria may not be innovative in Germany, may not be innovative in the UK. So it must be relative to your environment. Like I said, take for example, I was given an example of food-drug interaction the other time. I picked a drug that has been used to treat dementia. A lot has been done on the drug. I picked another compound in this case for Kumi, that even I myself in our lab, we've published over again. And then I now said, I want to study when I combine them. Now, individually, a lot has been done vis-a-vis dementia on each of those candidates. But this time around, I said, I want to combine them because and what is my hypothesis? I said, there can be a dementia case where the person is also taking this particular, a food rich in this particular compound. And we said this drug is used to treat the disease. This compound also have therapeutic effect from the disease. What if the person is eating the food and is taking the drug? The doctor may not even know he's taking the drug. And so this was my concept. The two areas have been well overflowed, but by the time I bring in the two together, it became novel because nobody has actually. And this is even in the area of polypharmacy. So this is the idea, sir. You must bring something new to the relative to your environment. There must be some novelties there. So it's not about if it is a new area, is a redundant area, or it is an overflowed area. Just be creative relative to your environment. Thank you.
Yeah.
I can see a question.
That's good. I believe probably the way I understand what Chukwuka is saying is probably you are saying that if the person has worked on that area for a longer period, but left for a while, are you thinking, is that what you are saying? Because that's another interpretation I can give to what you said. For instance, I've been working in this area, but I left the research, or I go to another area and I want to come back. That may also be a challenge, right? Because
is that what it's saying?
If that is what you mean, is that really what is the crook behind your answer question?
The main thing, even though I get the point that the speaker is trying to make also, but the main thing I was talking about is the situation whereby you are applying for grants and they are like, no, this work, this tangible work in this area stopped sometime in 2016. Why are you resurrecting it? Meanwhile, in your own mind, you are trying to bring something creative that others probably didn't think of in their own work. So how will your creativity be measured in that situation now, whereby we are bringing a new idea for a study that has stopped for like maybe 2016 or something like that?
Well, anyone who is thinking that way, that person is likely not reading literature. Because I don't think there is one area of research that was stopped.
Yes.
There is no area of research that will stop, that have ever stopped, except the disease or cure has been gotten for that disease, like probably polio eradication, for instance. Even now, we now know that we have white polio.
Yes.
Right? Therefore, what will warrant the reason for stopping the research? It may not be that inactive. People might move from one place. I don't know, since the beginning of scientific era, that there is one area of research that people are not doing again. Even the philosophy that we think people don't study again. Now, philosophy there could be a reminiscence of something, but that area, except there is except people ban it, except it's actively banned because of military investigations or something. Like for instance, now in US, you can see nuclear energy was actively discouraged, but now they are bringing it back that, okay, for energy efficiency, for using friction to generate electricity, because the wind is not, therefore it may not be invoked, it may not be very active. The way you use the word, that it is not the people stop. It's not, research is not an area that people stopped doing. But because people accept there is a great discovery in that area, that even if they discover it, people will still do something. Even in my own area of research, which is Alzheimer's disease, in the last for about 3 or 4 decades, people actually focus on amyloid beta depositions and tau, but it doesn't stop. Like in my own lab, working on white matter degeneration, people are still doing it. They may not be fully funded, they may not be popular, but it doesn't usually stop the area. If people say, oh, this is, someone has stopped there, nobody is doing this research worldwide, that's likely not likely. It's highly unlikely. But it may not be popular. It may not gain traction. Like another example I can give in my field is the role of glial cells in diseases. By the adventure that people discover electrophysiology ability to record when the patch clamping was invented, we are able to record action potential in neurons. Therefore, people stop. Therefore, everybody just put their head in generating action potential and looking for calcium signaling and so on and so on. Everybody forget that. In fact, if you read largely textbooks, people talk more on neurons than any other cells in the body. Whereas it's not even up to 20% of the whole cells in our brain and the CNS. Therefore, now people are even despite the fact that from let's say the time of Gaha, he got the Nobel Prize in 1906, 1903, 1906, up to our own time, 50 years ago, microglia still start to come up again. People are doing the work, but it may not be popular. People may not, you have to look how to survive, but there is no area of research that people will actually stop. I think it may not be popular, but people will continue to do it. Therefore, you now have more body to justify, just as Dr. Busi said, you have more burden to justify that this area that you are looking at is actually worth looking at, and it can give you can solve the problem that you want to solve. Therefore, don't look at it in that way that the one area has been stopped. People are not doing it again. People will not be doing it in where you are in your country, but believe me, people are doing it somewhere, somehow. All you need to do is just search online.
I think we have a question here relating to budget. The budget breakdown section of a grant writing is a bit new to individual from the scientific community. Any tips on this? Sorry, I completely, while trying to make my presentation as time conscious as possible, I completely skipped the aspect of budget. Budget is a very, very important part of proposals, especially proposals that are research grants. Of course, maybe masters and PhD may not ask you for budgets and the others, but in a research grant, most of the time you will be asked for a budget. And I have a number of things from my experience I can say about budgeting, but some of the things I would say is the number one, about your budget be as realistic as possible. Now, these funders have a way of checking. The world is now very global, so don't quote you want to buy a micro pipette for $10,000. It can be it's verifiable anyway. Or you want to buy Wistar art for $1,000 each. You have to be as realistic as possible. Now, another thing is that sometimes some of these grants, they already have quotas. They will tell you 20% is for consumables, 10% for conferences, another 10%. Make sure you don't go beyond each quota. Don't say, I want to buy an EEG, and because of that, you say you want to buy an EEG and you use 50% for equipment when they say it's only 25% for equipment. Everything you've done will be cancelled. You have to stay within the guideline you have been given. If that equipment is going to go beyond that guideline, just don't include it. Find a way. That is why sometimes in your proposal, it is even allowed for you to say, oh, I need this equipment, I don't have it. The grants will not allow, the budget cannot carry it. But there is a sister university beside us that have this equipment. I'm going to collaborate with Professor so or Dr. so. To strengthen your proposal, sometimes you can even get a letter from that person agreeing to collaborate with you on that proposal, and that solves that equipment. And then another thing I will also want to say is, when the instruction of the proposal, I said, don't include some things in your budget, don't include it. Don't say I must go to conference when there's no provision for conference. I must buy a laptop when there's no provision for laptop. They've told you we are not funding these things. But sometimes we still want to say, I must get it. No. Those things are natural cutoffs and natural disqualification because they've told you from start they don't fund it. Then another thing I will say is that, especially for African institutions, grants give room for institutional administrative costs. Always factor it in. Okay. Now, some don't give room for it. And you know your institution may, although I believe this is going to be another discussion for another day, but you must also still factor it in, maybe in your budgeting. So you must also remember to factor such a thing in. And then the final thing I will say on this concept is that this is my own personal belief. It is not a rule, but by my own, I still informed someone that sent me. The person sent me a proposal some days ago that I should help him to just proofread it. And that is one thing I would say. Sorry for digressing. I know the research community can be a little tricky. Some people's idea have been stolen because you have some people to review it. But thank God that's why AYS is there. I can assure you that the people we have in AYS, nobody is going to steal your idea. So if you are writing a proposal, send it across. Let them help you to proofread it. It's very important. I can assure you people in this platform are people of integrity. They have won grants and fellowships, and nobody is interested in stealing your ideas. So always send it, let people help you, and send it well ahead of time because everybody is busy. So my own personal comment is I don't like applying for the maximum grant amount. Again, my own bias. Why? Because especially, I'm from an African institution, it always makes me look like, oh, I'm desperate for the money. So I don't always like applying for it. I always leave some amount so that it doesn't look like they said maximum amount is $6,000 and your total budget is 6.0000. Again, like I said, it's not a rule anywhere. It's just my own way of thinking. I may be wrong. It's not a factor, but these are just things I've done over the years, so that it doesn't make someone look like you're just going in for the money. So these are some of the things I can see about budgeting. Follow the rules. Get your quotes from now. People will say, how do I get the amount? The internet is there. Most of the time you can get estimated quotes. Again, they are not expecting you to give an actual quote. Just get what is as applicable as possible. And don't say because I want to get all the money, even if the cost is not up to that, you bloat it. I have had experience whereby I applied for a particular amount of money in the grant, not up to the maximum. When they wanted to award it, they increased the amount themselves because they did market valuation. I think there was about 6 or 8 months of review period. So they themselves went to do pricing of some of those things. And when they were going to award the final amount, it was increased because of their own evaluation. So don't say, I want to get all the money, then I must pay pipette is $10,000 per one. No, it's not going to work. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I have experience about that one as well. Usually for the ISN grant, usually I usually apply for maximum. ISN CAN travel grant is happened to be $4,000. Therefore, when I applied in 2012 to travel to Italy, I applied for the money full, and I got it. And in 2016 again, I applied, I got it. Now, how do I do that? What I do in budgeting is that if it's just the money that is not much, that I know I needed more money, I will do my budgeting in such a way that the total amount that I needed for that travel is usually around 5,000. But they gave room. I will put 5,000, but amount I'm requesting for is 4,000. Therefore, the other amount I will sort it personally. That's how I do my own budgeting for that. Because once you have done it, even if the budget is 10,000, if the maximum amount they can offer you is 10,000, and you can budget up to 10,000, they will give you that 10,000. Therefore, don't try. It is good. What Dr. Ogunsi is trying to say is that if you don't need it, don't request for it. Therefore, if you need up to that amount, request. Even sometimes it can be 11,000. If your budget is 11,000, you can put it. I usually put it in bold. Total amount, grand total is this amount, but amount requested is this amount. The remaining amount is we sort from so. I get me. That's what I do. They gave room for that in that application, but some application may not give you that room. Therefore, budget it, and you can be generous, right? You can some of them allow for miscellaneous. Miscellaneous help you to put that 00 to add it up to 00. But if there's no miscellaneous, they want you to define everything. Just if it is 4,000, you can if your budget end up around 3,550, that's enough. $50 will not stop your project. Therefore, but don't try to just increase some things bogusly, because they will. Another thing, as a former ambassador of Africa on YSSC, we evaluate ambassadors thing. And what we do on our platform, because I represent Africa on the platform, and we have people who represent Asia, people who represent US, America, and those who represent Asia. What we do is that we allow those people who represented that continent to evaluate them, which means I'm evaluating Nigeria, for instance. And therefore, I know the cost. You can bombazoo everybody, but I know the cost. What is Naira? If you want to travel from Lagos to Maiduguri in Nigeria, I know how much it will cost. Therefore, I want you, if you now said on your grant transportation, it is 500,000, I know that is not true. Therefore, that can hurt you. Therefore, what you need to do, and as Dr. Ogunsi said, make sure, give it to the mentors, let them help you. And since next week is the last webinar, hopefully by Monday, upper Monday, not this Monday, the next Monday after Saturday, next week Saturday, you'll be matched. And which means you will now have your direct mentor. And some of you have been active. I can see Precious, Pepsi, and Ishoma. Those are the faces I used to see. Ola Oluwa, Subar, Yusuf, and I see Dia, Chabidin. Those are the faces I used to see, even seeing it on, and Samuel too. Samuel is a common face that I used to see on the webinar, and Mercy Olatunji also, the common faces. That's why it's good for you to have your pictures, but that helped me to remember. Yeah, Gabriel too. Gabriel is one of the, I think, in Chem also, the common faces that I used to see on the Zoom here. I've mentioned Mercy. What other thing? I'm not sure of Mokosa. I think your picture look familiar, but I'm not sure. But those are the pictures that I used to see here. Therefore, I think that can we round it up now, Dr. Ishola?
Sorry, yeah, I'm here. Before we round up, I think someone is trying to ask a question and has been popping up. Maybe just a few minutes to just address it. I think from Cyril Kandem said, many thanks, Prof. Please, I would like to know tips to apply to write a good methodology in research grant proposal. For instance, for research in diagnostic development for remote settings.
Okay. And before I answer that, I also saw one question earlier saying that in the context of journal editors, accept with major minor revision is a familiar decision. Is there any analogous comment in the world of grantmanship? Yeah, it's not all grants funders that give time for you to review. I've had to review with IFS. They allow you to review, but it's not every. So you, again, like I said, you need to know the rules and know what you're dealing with. Some give provision for review, but some is straight rejection and there's no room for appeal. As a matter of fact, some are serious as saying if you are rejected this year, you can't apply again until maybe 2 years' time. So different funders, different rules. So some allow, some don't allow. Now, to the question you raised, sir, about methodology. Now, again, if you're an active researcher in that area, methodology should not be a problem because you are expected to write grants. You are not expected to write a grant in an area you are 100% new to. Now, again, this no serious, like except for funders that want you to go into a new area. Most of the time, a level of experience is expected of you in that field before you can say you're asking for a certain amount of money to carry out a research in that area. So if you've been doing something there, then your methodology for proposal is the same methodology you use for a research paper. There's no much difference there. So you are expected to already familiar with it. All you are doing in this case is that you are only projecting to the future. We will do this, we will do that. So you are using the same set of methodology. Nothing, no difference, no ambiguity. So if you're already in that area, you know the methods you use to do. Of course, you may have to read literatures and get new methods you may want to incorporate. That is very much alike, especially let's say you are traveling to an advanced country whereby they have techniques you are not familiar with, and then you are working with someone. The host lab may want to give you access to those methodologies you need to include because you don't even have access to them. You can also get methodologies through reading literatures. So because for you to write a grant, you're expected to read a number of literatures. So I believe since it's a area you expected to have some level of experience to be able to, ask for fund in that area. However, if it is a grant that says, oh, you are welcome to this field, even if you have zero experience, these grants are very few, but they are available. In this case, again, you are expected to work with a mentor. That is my best advice for you. Even if you are new to that field, I've seen people that crossed from forestry to biological sciences. Yes, especially in Western countries, in some countries, because everybody had a general basic medical science. It's very easy to, move around, especially at the level of PhD and postdocs. So, but in this context, you're expected to have a mentor in that area, in that field you are going to, that you want to dive into. And this person will be able to guide you and provide you, together with literatures you've been able to read and digest. The person will now help you, guide you, and say, okay, these are achievable, because sometimes you see a number of methodologies in a paper, but they may not be achievable or translatable because of the available resources to you and your environment. So if it's a new field, please get a mentor in that field. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ogunsuyi. To add more to that is that it is not advisable to move from one field to another if your method, if you are not borrowing method, going there, no one will fund you. For instance, you are a biochemist and therefore you want to go and do biology work. And 90% of the method you want to use for that work, you will learn it. No one will fund you because that's the joke. But if, as a biochemist, you analyze a particular, you isolate a substance, and I say, oh, I'll be collaborating with Dr. Osino, who is a virologist, to see if that compound will influence the viral load. Then they will get you addition. That's a collaborative approach. Therefore, your method you are borrowing, your method you want to apply, is it applicable? How many of those things? And even in that collaboration, and for you to be a primary PI to write the grant, your tools, the tool you have at hand should be able to apply, is applicable to at least probably 60% of that work. Therefore, that's when the collaboration comes in, that you want someone to help you, that you capitalize on their expertise. And sometimes you may have, as Dr. Ogunsi rightly said, they may even have to give you a letter that, oh, we have this equipment and we trust the expertise of Dr. Adeni, and we will help you, we will be able to work along with him. You may need that one. But therefore, you have to make sure that you are not moving too much. If you have the tool, you can apply it to, as someone in biochemistry can apply tools in physiology, can use the same tools that he or she has in the biochemistry to apply to study the functional cellular work. Those ones are applicable. But if you are going to entirely a new field, you have to go there and learn and now try to develop it. You can cross, but they won't allow you to cross with that grant, except you are just applying for like a teaching grant, like a travel grant, for instance. Like you are just a biochemist, or you are just an anatomist who has not done anything, and you want to apply to, for instance, in neuroscience, you want to travel to attend a neuroscience conference, or you want to attend a neuroscience school where they do neuroscience. You can actually argue for that I'm trying to change a field and I want to become a neuroscientist. I think attending this conference will give me more better area of which area I want to specialize. If you argue that one, yeah, you have a chance, 50-50 chance of probably getting that grant. If you only need to argue and you recommend that your referee also will now state the same points, that, okay, in fact, I am the one, as a neuroscientist, out of those recommended, you need at least one of them. If probably out of two of them to be a neuroscientist, and one of them to be someone that has worked with you in the field where you approve yourself. That now show that, okay, this key, this hardworking capacity you have, when you get to neuroscience, you will not become nuisance. Then if they invest in you, you are likely to become somebody. Therefore, you need someone who will testify to your new skill, your old skill, and someone that prove that they will be able to mentor you where you are going. I think those are things you have to make sure you are. That's one of the things that AYS will give you, because on AYS here, you can be mentored by someone who is not directly in your field, because they want to teach you on the soft skills, and when the hard skills they require, they will recommend you for future. And as Dr. Ogunsi said, I must say again, don't request for referee or references when it is 2 days to deadline. Please, if you are contacting our mentors for referee, the 3 things you need to let them know is that let them know your name, let them know what the program are you applying for, and why do you want to apply, and when is the deadline. Those are the 3 minimum information you should send across to them. If you are contacting Dr. Ogunsi, introduce yourself first. Hi, I'm Dr. I'm one of the current mentee on the AYS, and I saw these applications and I believe I'm qualified. This is the benefit I will get from it, and this is the deadline. I want you to help me to serve as one of my referees. Let that person get those information first before they accept or not. Because if the deadline is too close, if it is within 1 week, don't reach out to me personally. Therefore, just reach out to another person, because it's too close. And one thing that I would also say, for those of you, for all of us here, please go to your the platform that you are likely to be funded. Then go and check when is the deadline. Therefore, put it in your calendar to know, I qualify for this grant, yes, and this is when it will open. Then prepare ahead. Let your mentor know that I want to apply for this grant. That's how I do. I remember during my Ebro days, when Ebro still have a membership, because I joined Ebro in 2008. All through that time, they are on the website. When you go there, you can log in as a member. Actually every day I will go and log in to go and see, is there any call? because unlike today, now that now they have a deadline, you can see when they call. I will always go there to go and check to see the deadline because you want to be sure I want to apply for this grant and you track it. Conference attendance, you want to see, okay, I want to attend, apply, use this grant to attend this conference. Track them and have a project that you meant and carry your mentor along. Then they will prepare you ahead. And ultimately, if you know someone who has already won that grant, let that person mentor you. In fact, they can send you a draft of their own proposal that I won. And they say, oh, this is a proposal. That I remember my own first grant that I won, that I mentioned in 2012 for ISN grant. It was a friend of mine who said, well, I want to attend. He said, oh, this is my grant. Because that grant is, if you have applied for ISN grant, it's just 2 pages. Everything is just 2 pages. And therefore, he sent me a copy of our own. And I just modify my own in such a form, and I send it to some of my mentors, some of internationally. Some of them, one of them helped me to edit about 2 lines, and the other person said no, he's not ready to help me. That's just deal with my mentors who the grant the school I want to apply. Okay, it was harsh, but I take it calmly, and at the end I got the grant. By the time I communicated with them, I remember Dr. Sharon Janice Weeks. She said, Philip, be proud of yourself. You actually did the majority of the work, and I got the grant, and I was able to travel to Italy in 2013. Therefore, please carry your mentors along. That will be helpful to you. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Aishola.
Okay, so next week we have the final lecture on the OIS training platform. And I think just to be sure, our final talk will be on the
Yeah, that will be by Dr. Omojokun.
yeah, by Dr. Mojokun. I just want to get the topic correctly, so I'm gonna be
Yeah, I commented on it, and this is it.
proposal pitching and storytelling. Yeah.
Okay, therefore that will reinforce what the Dr. Ogusuyi said today. Please
yes.
try to be here. And as I said at the beginning, we are not going live on our Facebook any longer. Thanks to Samuel. No, is it Samuel? I think Michael or Samuel. I think I forgot the name now. But I can see one Samuel now. I think Samuel reached out to me during the week, and he was the one that helped me to do the retreaming our platform. Now, for now, we can now stream on our Zoom, on our YouTube, and we are now streaming on our LinkedIn. Therefore, but what I did is I copied the YouTube link and I pasted it on the Facebook, because the reason why I did not go for your Facebook, because they want us to pay, and I'm not ready to spend $16 per month on that. Therefore, and actually the reason why we were streaming on Facebook before, because that's where we have more followers, but I think it's better for us to develop our YouTube platform, so that's why I get this. Hopefully, if I get another free platform to allow us to go to the Facebook, we'll go back to Facebook. For now, we'll stay on the link on the LinkedIn and the YouTube. Therefore, please, you can go back to our YouTube page and to hear it again. And so I love listening to talk directly rather than even going through the slide, because just as Dr. Gwynne said at the beginning, there are many things he said that is not on the slide that he shared with us, which is very, very rich experience. Thank you so much. Can we celebrate our Doc? He's one of our mentors on the platform and he's doing well. Hopefully, definitely he's already he's active this year. We will get a mentee on the by the time we are done. Okay, Dr. Ishola.
Okay.
If there's nothing more.
Yeah, I think the other thing is just like when we're done with Dr. Mojokun's lecture by next week, then we're done with our foundational training platform. And as you rightly mentioned earlier, so the mentees will have to be matched. Then among themselves, for those who passed the screening of the attendance of the training platform, they'll be matched, and among them we have to choose a coordinator. Then we start liaising with the coordinator to start drumming up the lecture series that will span through the rest of the year. And some of our collaborators so that will be giving us lectures outside the JYX platform. So I think that's just basically what's in my head.
Okay, yes, that's it. Yeah, for those of you who are wondering after this program, what next? After next week, what next? That's what Dr. Ishola just outlined for you. Where then we are going to the real-time mentorship on AYS. The first thing that happens after next week, Saturday, is that we will screen out those who fail to meet the attendance requirement for the webinar in the last 3 months. They will be screened out, and the remaining member now will be paired with their mentors, and then which means you after the Saturday, you will see that our WhatsApp platform will be only admin comment only. During that period, we will do shutdown of the communications, and we'll be able to remove those who fail the attendance, and those who pass will remain. And from there, we'll communicate. Then Dr. Ishola will lead, or Dr. Ishola or Dr. Ofewo. Either of them, they are the co-chair of the coordinating, therefore they will lead the program for selecting the coordinator and assistant coordinator who will join the webinar organizing committee to liaise, and will be able to plan for the webinar moving forward to December 2020, this year. I think that's the heartline of our program. We wish you all the best. See you next week. Thank you for coming.